Hello, and welcome to another episode of Prop Talk, the official podcast of the Property Masters Guild. I'm your host today, Mikey Trudel. Chris unfortunately could not be here, but it's okay. We have a whole bunch of other Property Master Guild board members here, and today what we are going to be talking about is the MacGuffin Awards, the first award show designed and built specifically for Property Masters. And with us today to talk about that, we pretty much got a whole bunch of members from the awards committee in the Property Masters Guild that pretty much built this show from the ground up and made it completely from scratch. So with us today, we're going to have Theresa Corvino, one of the chairs of the said committee. Hey, hello. Theresa. We have Lauren Schell.
Hello.
How's it going, Lauren? And then we got Brad Elliott.
Hey there.
How's it going, Brad?
It's good.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about the first ever Property Masters Guild Awards show, which is the MacGuffin Awards. So, Brad, I think you are the person that kind of first had the idea to have an award show. I'm sure you're not the first person that's had the idea, but you're
the
whole
I invented the concept of the awards show in general. No,
yes.
The Property Masters Guild was around. It was really just firing up, and people were coming in, and membership, requirements were getting figured out. And I'm like, okay, I got to join this thing. But the one thing I really want out of this organization is an award show. And I know that there had been talk about it before it got rolling in this now iteration that seems like it's actually going to happen. But
I would hope so.
We came to it with the goal of let's come up with an award show, not necessarily so that we can all pat ourselves in the back and have trophies on the mantelpiece, but more importantly that we're going to have however many categories. Each one has 5 nominees. Right now it's 11 categories with 5 nominees each. And the vision back then was, wouldn't it be great if 55 members of the Property Masters Guild could go to their producers, directors, production designers and say, hey, congratulations, our project was nominated for an award. They're recognizing it as excellent. And that can only help the membership elevate maybe in your negotiations for a little more money in the kit or a little bit over scale, or maybe it just helps you get the call maybe 1 or 2 people earlier than you might have gotten the call in the last round before this stuff. So hopefully this is going to serve to elevate the membership and also remind everybody in the industry in a greater sense that Property Masters contribute and that we are capable of excellence in our field, and that should be celebrated, and waiting around for Emmys or Oscars or ADG or anybody else to do it. It hasn't worked out so far.
Well, and it's a change in thought pattern, right? Like for years, the mantra has sort of been like being the ninja, the person who gets the stuff done and doesn't draw attention to themselves. And I don't know that it's served us in being recognized for the art and, what we bring to production. So it's sort of the first step in, claiming that recognition back for the work that we're doing.
We've started to build it, right? And we've gotten to the point where we have a date and people have actually sent in submissions and we've made it to the nominee status there. So before we get to actually the nominees, which I do want to actually go through and give a shout out to everybody who was nominated, which the packets were all pretty wonderful. I've been continuing to say that on this show. Let's talk about how we were able to do this award show. How do we build it? When you see all of the Emmys and Oscars, which you mentioned, there's a lot that goes into it, but there's also a lot of people that we work close with that has kind of already done it in a way, our art directors, the set decorators, and even location managers. So when building this, what was the first things we did and how did we get to where we are now? I don't know who
That's
should.
such a good one.
Wow. The framework for the awards themselves.
Right.
It was. I went in and basically when I came up with the first proposal, just the first one sheet, I was just like, well, how does what's the nearest analogous, sort of award show to what we would be doing, and it felt like the ADG, the Art Directors Guild, had something that was fairly similar. So a lot of it started with a lot of their framework. And then because we're prop masters, we're really good at doing things that we're not very good at. We took the problem apart, and a lot of people, have jumped in, and I can't take this is I know I'm talking a lot about this. This isn't me. This is a huge group of people with a ton of effort, and we've all done parts of this that make sense for us. So you have to design an award, which I originally thought I didn't care anything about, because it was all about the sort of the street credit and the communication with your employers.
I think on the episode that you were on before, you were like, the trophy can be a spatula.
Yeah, it was a spatula. It's not a spatula. It's actually quite beautiful. And we've had a lot of people sketching, and the committee took a long time. We 3D printed a bunch of maquettes on our top 6 choices. And it landed where it landed, with the MacGuffin trophy being really quite beautiful, and I think an object that people are going to be excited to have. But that's just a tiny part. Then you have to figure out, what are the rules? What are the categories? How do you define a feature? The Oscars does it in a way where you have to be released in theaters. But, I remember seeing so much amazing streaming content that isn't Oscar eligible just because it was released to streaming. And so I didn't think that was really necessary, but we just had to work these rules and these categories over until nothing could fall through cracks. How long is a feature? That's a really hard answer.
I don't think anybody can really answer it.
So we've answered it for ourselves.
Right.
And I think the category definitions are strong. They're holding up. We have realized that if the BBC's Sherlock miniseries had come out, we wouldn't have a clear category space for it. It probably would go into miniseries, but each of the episodes is 2 hours long, so they could be independent features and be considered sequels. So there's always stuff we're going to be changing and evolving, and so we're honestly really happy to get input from the prop masters community in general, because we're doing this for the first time. We're probably going to make a few mistakes along the way. So far, it's been going all right.
Right.
Yeah.
And going into building the categories too, or what you were saying, because originally I think it was set out we were going to try to do 13 categories, which has turned into 11, right?
12. We started with 12.
Started with 12.
Sorry, 12.
Yeah, and short format web series, music video got combined with commercials. But you sort of put this stuff out into the world, 12 categories. We need so many submissions to come up with 5 nominees. And you put it out into the world and you're like, is anybody going to notice that we put out into the world? And we're really happy that we had 177 submissions for categories, with some of them up to 20 submissions in a category. And it was really exciting to see that that means other people want to do this too. We've had a dozen people in rooms for a while figuring all this out, but prop masters want to do this. And so the commercial and music video one ended up getting combined, because there was just I think 7 or 8 submissions each, but together it felt like a decent size submission pool. And hopefully, as this grows and builds, we'll be having opposite problems.
Yeah, I hope we have to spread the categories back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of the best part about the, people actually want to do this, is the emails that they would send us. They would submit their packets and, turn in all their information, but it was then the private emails that we would get of we are so excited that we're finally doing this. I can't wait to come across from overseas to be here for the awards. That people are flying in from other countries to come be with us on this event.
It seems like we're driving membership too.
Yeah.
People want to be able to vote. They are coming to the guild because this is sort of become a flagship event, I think. And why wouldn't it? This kind of recognition internally will help everybody in the industry.
And so let's talk about that for a brief second. Who can submit and who can vote?
Right.
Oh, sure.
So submissions were open to anybody who was a property master on a project in any of the categories. So feature films across various categories, television shows, miniseries, commercial, web series, music video.
Union and non-union.
Union and non-union. You did not have to be a member to submit. Anybody's work that qualified was welcome to submit. There was no cost to submit. And I think, the number of submissions that we received said that worked really well. Mm-hmm. But voting was a little more restrictive.
Yeah, the voting was just for the members.
Yeah, which is how all the other organizations do it, right? Like, you had to be a member of the Academy to vote on the Academy submissions. And as a result, that seems to be something that's really important to people, because membership has been, reflective of people are excited.
Well, yeah,
to vote.
having that as a membership benefit, but it's also, it's the PMG's award show. This is the people that are going to be voting on this, and it's the biggest group of our peers that exists right now, that can.
Well, and the PMG goes for the membership committee goes through a pretty specific, stringent set of requirements to make sure that if you're joining this organization, that you are a qualified property master. So then it empowers us to know that the people that are voting to say this is excellence in our craft are qualified property masters to
not
do
just
so.
Fans of the projects that they're voting for,
Yeah.
although they could be both. And we chose a ranked voting system to get out of submissions and into nominations. We knew we wanted to land with 5 because that seemed to be the number that made the most sense to everybody. Maybe next year it would change, but I think it's working at 5. And then the ranked voting, it was important to really avoid ties. Our membership still is, what are we at, about 180 something?
No, we're at 230.
Oh, see, I told you we were driving membership. That's new news. That's fantastic. But it's still a small voting block.
Yeah, we got 12 submissions waiting for this month too, so it's driving. Yes,
No, and I think it's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear it. But it was also, ranked voting was something we needed to avoid ties, because this is our first year out. We have to have these rules dialed in. Even defining. So I spoke about defining a feature film. We can get into the weeds on that if we really want to. But defining how you can prove that you're a prop master. A lot of people wanted to submit their IMDb pages, but you can self-submit to IMDb. So that's not something that we thought was solid enough. You could screenshot your credits, give us a call sheet. You could hit us up with, the crew list that you're on, and failing that, an affidavit from a producer who hired you, the decorator you worked with, the production designer, but somebody who could vouch for your credit. And we actually had a few people submit that could not pass that bar.
Right. And you have to be the one thing I noticed too, because you have to be the primary prop master, and be a prop mastering. We know we do a lot of second unit and third unit stuff, or LA unit when things are shot in multiple places around the country, where the primary prop master won't necessarily be there for that unit. So I think that
and the
a lot
motivation
of
that is to who was the one who defined the creative of the project, and that would be the primary property masters.
Right.
Yeah.
And with that being said, does at least the second unit and all the other prop masters get credit on the award,
They can. We asked property masters when they submitted their project to list up to 10 team members that they felt were, instrumental in bringing the project to completion.
Right.
And then also 3 vendors. And that allows them to, because they know their shows better than we would ever know their shows, that who do they believe was instrumental? So maybe that's the set master who runs set. Maybe it's their buyer. Maybe it's the second unit prop master, whoever they felt. And those people will get nomination or winner certificates based on, what happens with the show. Yeah. And that was important to us to recognize that it's not just a prop master who brings a project to fruition. There is a whole group of people that make that happen.
Right. Okay, I want to step back a little bit to what we were talking about a little bit before, and that is getting people to submission, what the submission process was. Because I know with a lot of other shows, you have the Academy Awards and Emmys, it's not those organizations that are reaching out to people, encouraging them to submit. It's mostly comes from the studios. Since this is the first one and we built it pretty internally and we don't have the studios at our disposal, what was the process like getting people to submit, and how did we accomplish that to get 170 so on submissions?
Oh boy, that was a high bar.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
We cheated.
Yes.
I went and looked at the ADG releases a list of shows that they believe are qualified for their awards, and that became a real good starting point. Of there were hundreds of shows on that, but which the committee spent a lot of time putting into a lot of work of figuring out who was the prop master on that show, verifying who was the prop master on that show, finding the contact information for that prop master and reaching out. And asking them to submit, and then walking them through the submission and helping them with any hurdles with this new process of how to do. But I think we sent hundreds. Of emails and spent easily hundreds of hours on that.
And, Theresa says it's cheating, but it really isn't. What it does is it makes sure that the best projects are represented with, of course, the permission of the prop master who did them. Whether they took the time to come up with a really big, lengthy submission packet or whether it's just their movie poster, we wanted the best of the best up there in competition. And that was the motivation for reaching out. And then I think once submissions started rolling, the community started talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, are you going to do this thing? I don't know. I was thinking about it. Are you? Yeah, I might. And I think it gained its own momentum. I think next year we're going to have a lot more interest in submitting, and I think people are even going to be, if they're lucky enough to be working right now, taking pictures of their process so that their submissions are in their heads as we go. I know I am.
Well, one thing we learned was that most studios have awards departments, and those work with the publicity department to submit on behalf of the shows that they've produced that year. But this is brand new, and we knew that we weren't going to get a lot of attention from that. We got some, which was actually really encouraging to see, but we also learned that, like, Disney's awards department has a policy that Disney does not submit on behalf of their shows. They just they're open to letting the people that work on those shows submit. But I think it was somewhat of a sticky hurdle for some members of, like, I don't know, I feel weird submitting for myself, and it was a lot of us learning how others do it, and this is actually a really normal process.
I think self-advocating is something that prop masters in general could do better.
Yeah.
Putting your foot down and saying to a producer, no, we have to be in 12s right now, or whatever it is. No, this is, if you want this, it's going to cost another $50,000 or whatever it is. So I think we're just so accustomed to being quiet and in the background and crushing the work and watching the production designer take credit, that we're not good at self-advocating. And I think this is even just submitting is going to help everybody get better at that.
Well, and one of the things that I noticed about myself, because I had 2 movies that came out and a commercial that came out that was eligible to submit. And so I was like, okay, and I was in the middle of a job and was really super busy, and I'm like, fine, I'll just like pull some quick pics and throw them together. And I realized I had 0 pictures.
Yeah.
I had nothing. I had nothing that I could submit. And I'm like, you spent months of your life on this job and you literally took 0 pictures. I'm like, I could watch the movies and pull screen grabs, I guess. But I'm like...
And a lot of people did.
I know. I was like, that's the only thing I could do at that point. And I was so slammed. I was like, here's a movie poster.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember speaking...
Way to limp in.
I know. I did. I limped right in. I was like... Ugh.
I remember speaking to some people, too, who were like, well, but you'd be asking me to compete against this show. I don't stand a chance. And I remember a lot of those conversations, and it's like, okay, yes, I get it. There will be 11-ish winners at the end of the day. But there will be 50-something nominees, and each one of them are getting a certificate to say that they're a nominee. And each one of them are going to be able to go back and say, I'm an award nominated. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff makes the DVD box. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, award, Oscar-nominated actor, director, whatever. Like, that is something to be celebrated.
What's a DVD?
I know, right?
So, with talking about submissions and everything like that, we had a lot that came in. I'm almost happy that I didn't have a show this year because I feel like my submission wouldn't have been as detailed as these ones are in. But I'm happy that I have a year to be able to like flip through, because going in, I think I've said this on past podcasts, I thought it was going to be like, all right, I'm going to spend 30 minutes. I'm going to vote for the nominees, and then go. It took me like 6 hours to like actually go through, because you didn't want to like do anybody a disservice by not actually paying attention to their material.
Yeah.
They were like very, very detailed, and I think these are ones that, as prop masters also reviewing it, you understand a lot of other things that, I don't know, I wouldn't have thought about with other award show where you're voting on all the other categories. It's like things that can also move forward and revolutionize how we do things that you didn't think about, that mentions it in this packet, like exactly how much they had to do. So I am excited that I was able to like read through this, and now next time if I ever do, I mean, I will have shows to submit eventually. I'm gonna take the time to actually put it in. They were really impressive submissions.
Yeah, this was a tricky decision because a lot of other award shows, the membership doesn't vote to create the nominees. The committee creates the nominees.
Oh yeah.
And I think I play a lot of board games. Right. My family is a gaming family, so I really am good at considering rule structures, I think. And in order to keep this from having, any thought of impropriety or, the club of, oh, well, of course they're going to choose those people because they all hang out or whatever, having the membership vote is great because the nominees are chosen the most democratic way we could come up with. The problem is your 6 hours. For me, I think because I did a lot of the vetting of a lot of the submissions, I cruised through it in about 2.5 hours. And I've spoken to other members who weren't able to give it the time that it really required to look at every submission. And I think there's a way moving forward where we may be able to streamline just how many clicks it takes you to get there. It's important that the membership look to make informed decisions because it does take time.
Well, voting in such a way was really new for everybody. There's very few prop masters that are in the academy, either of the academies. So this is a whole new process, and the way we chose to do it was slightly different as well with the submission materials. I know the SDSA does something similar, the ADGG does something similar, but it's a high hurdle to participate in voting. But I also don't know that that's a bad thing, because there's such a diversity of content and shows and a lot of work that went into making those shows and then building the submission materials, that I think if you're making a decision that so dramatically could affect someone's career, that you're putting the time and effort to carefully consider which ones are, rising above the others.
And I think too, there are a lot of these shows that I'd never seen. Like, I'd never watched a lot of these shows. And I didn't want to do a disservice to the people that were submitting to not take the time to look, or the people that were submitting, to not take the time to look at the packets, because I'm like, well, I can't just be like, well, I've never seen this, I can't vote in this category. Like, I'll just pick 1 through 3 of the first 3 that pop up. But it's important to be able to look at their body of work and know that, what you're voting on has integrity, and that they are in fact in the top 5 that you think, and so that was something that was especially important for me.
And so while it's a privilege of membership to vote, it feels like a responsibility to put in the effort that it's due.
Yeah.
And that's why we wouldn't let you, in the ranked voting on the submissions to choose nominations, we wouldn't let you just pick one. You had to pick a few because we really did want informed choices. Now it's going to be a little bit easier. 1, because there's only 5 to look at. And theoretically, just about everybody who's voting, unless their membership came active in between the voting processes for submissions and for the winners, most everybody has looked at these, hopefully, already.
Yeah, it's already reviewed the material, and I think at this point, I mean, if you haven't seen most of the movies already, the movies are easier to just watch if you want to take the time to look a little bit deeper into any of them, I think.
Yeah.
a little trickier to watch a whole season of a show or a miniseries. You know, the timing of that content is long and still a little burdensome. But that's the whole point of the submission, is that you get the prop master advocating for their team's work, and hopefully you take the time to look at it.
Yeah, I think so too. So, are more than just prop masters are able to submit, right? Like, did we get submissions on behalf of? Yeah,
we got some. You were able to submit on the behalf of someone else. So, you know, we did have some where an assistant prop master or someone who just knew their body of work really well submitted for somebody else. If that was the case, it was just a little bit higher of a burden on the committee to then verify that submission with the property master.
Right.
But yeah, it did happen.
Right. And I don't, just because I don't think we've mentioned it yet, I just wanted to say that's the date and where this actually is going to be happening. The award show, it's like, but I think by the time this episode comes out, it's going to be within a couple weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think this is going to predate the end of voting by a couple days, because voting will close August 24th at 8 p.m. Pacific time. And then the award show will be September 14th,
right,
which is a Saturday, at the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles.
Doors open at 5 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's talk
ticket sales, though, first, too, just because I think ticket sales are going to be closing August 25th.
Ticket sales? I think it's more like September 3rd, I think, is like the date that IDM.
Yeah, but important to know that, like, you can't show up and buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Like,
it's sort of like that wedding thing. We got to know how many people are coming.
Yeah.
We got to have a head count.
So we know how much
Caterer will
food
be really
to get
upset.
and how many cocktails we expect will be drank.
Right. So, I mean, I guess that goes without saying. That if you haven't, you said by the time voting would be.
Voting will close on the 24th.
Oh, okay. So get your votes in, everybody.
Get your votes in, buy your tickets.
Buy your tickets.
Yeah, get your votes in and buy your tickets right now.
Well, and the committee
Very
spent
important.
a lot of hours finding the Belasco.
Oh, yeah.
We looked at.
At country
I know way
clubs.
too much about event venues now.
Oh my god, we went to so many golf country clubs and to other theaters, and there was days of like Anna and I traipsing around. You joined us on a couple of them, traipsing around at all these different venues trying to figure out the best one.
And I did very little of that, but I want to congratulate you both. You found a space that is, I think, formal enough. It's got an old Hollywood feel, like the MacGuffin, the name of the trophy is an old Hollywood prop term. And for those that don't know, you can obviously look it up, but the idea is it's the prop that drives the story. So think of the Maltese Falcon, think of the Ark of the Covenant, the One Ring of Power, that kind of thing. That's the MacGuffin. Without that prop, the story doesn't exist. And so to pull this term from, the Hitchcock era, where I don't think he coined it, but I think he made it popular,
right,
gives us a little bit of the gravitas of old Hollywood, and then the Belasco, which you guys found, does the same. It's an old Hollywood theater.
It's gorgeous,
and it's just got the right number of spaces for us. We're going to keep this event. It says a formal affair, but it's going to feel more Golden Globes, I think, than Oscar.
Right, and it's all within the same location, unlike a lot of events, right? Our cocktail party to the actual event to the after party are all self-contained within the Belasco Theater, right?
And we made some unique decisions about the event that evening that are a little bit odd, but I think will actually work really well. They sort of started out, I mean, like everything, they started out budget motivated, and then you turn the budget into an artistic decision. I think
that the lack of sliders is your most questionable.
There's been a debate over whether there should be sliders on the menu, so feel free to write in your answers. But
it'll be too late to count.
It'll be too late to count next year. So we were concerned about not just the cost of what a ticket would be to do a full dinner that night, but the feasibility on our first year of pulling off a full dinner service that night. So we ended up deciding we're doing, there will be plenty of food available as buffets and past hors d'oeuvres all evening, and there will be, the bar will be open as well for cocktails and so on and so forth all evening. But when we laid out the event, we ended up with something that feels a little more like dinner theater, where there will be seats and tables, but the intention is to be communal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've really built a camaraderie feel into this event, which is what we're all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back, I mean, when we got the table at the ADG Awards, we were we were a little bit the rowdy table at the whole award show.
100%.
Yeah, so this is an entire theater of that, pretty much.
And for instance, like at the ADG Awards, like there's 800 people in that ballroom, and I think I only got to talk to like a dozen because you're at one table and you can't possibly see everybody else. So our intention was to get people walking around and talking, and it's year one, like getting to really have this event together.
Mm-hmm.
We've built in an intermission partially for that reason, so everybody can just get up and mix.
Go congratulate the first half of winners,
exactly.
like.
The other thing I think it's really important to mention is that the Property Masters Guild, while being incredibly supportive most of the time, is not contributing really any of the budget. There's no budget for this.
Right.
So every dollar that is being spent has to be raised. And we found a ton of great partners to be sponsors of the event, and also to build our trophies, which are expensive, to provide alcohol, to just pay for the Belasco. The number of I cannot overstate how impressed I am at the fundraising level for this.
Right.
Yeah, we started into this hurdle over a year ago now.
Yeah.
Putting this together, going, okay, I think this is how much it's going to cost. I don't have $100 and some $1,000, so someone's going to need to.
Yeah.
And we were really surprised how, like, our vendors and our community partners have really engaged with us. Like, I'd be remiss not to mention, like, Dell coming out and being the first sponsor.
Very first
and
one.
just right out of the gate with such support really broke ground and also empowered us.
We felt so good
to feel
like,
to
oh, it's
move
gonna
on to
work.
the next one. And SAT is going so out of their way to deliver such a gorgeous trophy to us. Hill Valley is going to be doing, we're having a humanitarian award this year, which we should talk about a little, to celebrate a property master for how they help community build outside of the craft work that they do. And Hill Valley is sponsoring. There's just been so many.
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch,
Yeah.
UTA with Lyft,
Weta Workshop.
Weta Workshop.
This is how we're going to keep our ticket prices, by the way, down to about half of what the ADG is. They're very, very affordable tickets. We need to sell them because that's part of the math in how we're paying for this event. But it seems like we're going to clear that hurdle pretty easily.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time with the numbers, making sure that we could do the ticket prices at cost.
Yeah.
Like, the guild is not looking at this as a giant way to, like, tax our membership for additional guild revenue right now. Like, this is what's the smallest amount I could charge for a ticket to still deliver the event that's expected.
Yeah, other guilds and other programs, obviously, they make money. It's their awards program is a revenue generator.
Yeah.
We're just trying to stay revenue neutral.
Right.
And maybe moving forward, because our sponsorship packages are incredibly cheap.
Yeah,
honestly,
they're very low
compared to the rest of the industry. We're at anywhere from 30 to 60% of what you'd be paying at some of these other awards show for sponsorship. So in doing that, we also, first time out, we're really hungry, so we discounted everything we could.
Yeah.
But we also don't have the highest hurdle to clear. I mean, we're trying to, I don't think it's a shame to talk about these budgets. We're trying to clear around 120, 130.
The whole event, we have a budget that we have a dream budget, and then we have a budget that we've politely started calling the we're poor budget.
Yeah.
That says the minimum we could pull this event off for is $85,000.
Yeah.
And like almost half of that is like literal minimum venue costs. Yeah. And with the Belasco being possibly the most affordable venue, we were just lucky that it was also the best venue we found. And then we have a slightly nicer budget that allows us to provide a little bit more benefit for people that night. But I mean, $85,000 to do an event like this is.
I'm pretty sure ADG is like over $2 million. To some of these,
I believe you.
Yeah.
And we were able to put in this time because the industry was dead and on strike. And
Right.
we're all optimistic that work will be coming back more and more robustly as even this year goes on and as next year, continues. And what we've done here as this committee is we've built this house that has a foundation that it will be easy to build on again. So as we contract with outside companies, which is how most of the other guilds do this, they're going to raise the money and take a percentage. They're going to do all of the stuff that we've already figured out that nobody hopefully is going to have time for again.
Right.
And that the awards committee will mostly be about, let's look at our rule structures, let's make sure we like our venues, we'll drive the creative, and we'll make sure that everything keeps going that way. But my goodness, how many phone calls have you guys made begging for money?
So many.
And we won't have to do that part anymore, which is good because I hope we don't have time.
And one thing we should talk about too is just like it was really important to us that the committee reflect as many different property master experiences as possible. So it's flexed a little bit as the year and a half has gone on, but it's roughly 10 people that represent reality television and commercials and features and big shows and little shows and television. You know what I mean? Like
music videos, multicam,
music videos and
Yeah.
multi but also it'd be remiss not to say in this moment that like once the award show happens on September 14th, probably on September 15th, next year's work will start. And while this committee has done a fantastic job, one of the things that's benefited is like mixing it up halfway through the year and getting new voices. So if there are new voices that are excited about the prospect of being involved in next year, please reach out.
Please, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We would love to have more people involved for sure.
Yeah. And I think this is something, just to go back, I think this is something that Prop Masters has wanted for a long time. And once everybody was motivated, when we started sitting down and doing the actual work for it, the deterring number was when we realized, okay, this is going to be $100,000 plus thing. And it's like,
I have $5 if you
I
need
know.
it.
yeah.
I got a quarter in my car.
How do we do this? So I think that's what has changed a lot of minds. We'd be like, okay, we can do this. We can do it. And anybody that was, not anybody, there's still, people, but a lot of people that were kind of against doing it as early as we did, once the groundwork has started to be done and they can see everything in motion and see like, okay, yeah, this is happening and it's good. People started getting behind us. And I think that shows in the submissions and everything that we've had here. So I'm very excited for what's happened.
Early on, there was a lot of sort of trepidation and fear about like maybe
It's
we
scary.
should pump the brakes on
It's
this.
scary.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
maybe we
should
shouldn't
wait
do it
for
this
next year because maybe there will be better options to vote on next year. And my whole sense of this thing is like we want this to be a 25-year-old event. Like I would love it if this was the 25th anniversary this year of the MacGuffin Awards, and you have to start if you want to get there. And so this is the start.
We spent a fair amount of time like being trepidatious about the budget, but I think it's important to say too, like while a spatula would have worked, like it was so important to say that like it needs to be affordable, but prop masters are the best at what they do when they do it. And if we're going to have an award show, I feel like we have to deliver a certain level. And I'm really happy with where we are right
Me
now.
too.
And getting to that point too, and I have to bring up this point, is that we're having an award show that takes place in September for all of the work that was done the prior year before.
Yeah.
Is this something that's going to stick to this every year, or are we trying to move back in future years to do this? Is this...
I'd love to pull it earlier, but
Right.
this is when we could do this.
Of course.
It became a decision of reality of how long would it take us feasibly to get an award show ready. But it's been interesting because as we've learned more and more about this process, I think that there will be some consideration to what is eligible or according to other industry awards. But we've gotten a lot of professional advice that September might actually be pretty close to ideal in future years compared to like we're directly aligned with the Emmys that are the following day, but we stay out of the awards. I don't want to call it
The
a mess,
fray.
but like the fray
Yeah.
of everybody else at the front half of the year.
But the problematic point is the Emmys are all doing this year's shows.
They are, and
where
that's
we
good.
are doing the shows from the year. So
We had to make a determination, and it felt like calendar year, January 1st to December 31st, to just put that bracket on
Right.
things as
Yeah.
when did your project come out?
Right.
And if it came out in 2023, then you can make a prize for yourself in 2024.
totally.
A spatula, getting back to the is a very useful item.
Right.
But I have found with the 3D printed prototype of our MacGuffin trophy it's really good when you get home to put your keys on.
Nice.
So it does have some function, maybe
Yeah.
not quite the same.
Yeah.
Well, and everything was a year one decision. You know,
Right,
and
right.
this is a trial and error. And if nothing else, we found that our craft is one that knows how to adapt.
Right.
You know, so it's find the problem, fix the problem, and
Yep.
you know, this will be something that will. The Oscars is how many decades old now, and is still changing the rules year to year.
Totally.
So,
We'll tweak ours too, I'm sure, but I really like where we've started, where the opportunity for for people to make it like a little fan club of nominees is not there. It's a really democratic process. The rule structure seems to be holding up as we actually go through this for the first time, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and we've got members and non-members as nominees.
Oh, totally.
So that's great too.
Yeah, I think prop masters are supportive pretty much across the board from what I've seen. Do you guys want to? I mean, do you guys want to talk about nominees? Do you want to mention some people?
Yeah.
I think we should rattle through real quick to
There's-
tell everybody what. And if you haven't voted yet, now's the time. We're going to tell you exactly who's nominated. I think we'll run through the categories and everything right now. So, for period feature film, and just before we do this, I mean, is there any categories that are above anything else? Like, what's our best picture?
We've timed out the show. We've written the show.
Yeah.
Right? And we know minute by minute basically where we're going to be. And we have the categories spaced out, I think, in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, we really specifically don't want to have Best Picture,
Yes.
Best Actor. We don't want to
They're
call
pretty-
one of these
yes.
more prestigious than
All right,
another.
you love it.
A win in the category is something that everybody should be very proud of
Yes.
because they're going to be up against the peers that are doing that work and are submitting the best work. So to call out one as Best Picture, I
No.
can't
Well, and
find
that's
one, and I
why-
think we should avoid that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why we ended up following the ADG's pattern of this. The categories are established by genre and medium. You know, so contemporary feature films are competing against other contemporary feature
Right.
films, and you're not comparing apples to oranges by putting a commercial next to
Napoleon.
Napoleon. But it's a different level style of work. It's a different challenge from one project to the other. So it was to simply compete against those who were facing a similar struggle artistically and
Yeah, well,
artistically.
let's at least run through the actual
Definitely.
categories if we're not going to call out every. I mean, this is where if I'm listening to this, I'm going to fast forward through all the nominations. But
Yeah.
but the categories themselves were difficult enough to come up with.
Yeah.
And so I'm staring at a screen right now that has period feature film.
Period feature film. We got fantasy science fiction feature film.
And we put those two together because, like Theresa was saying, the work is similar for a fantasy and a science fiction. And some projects really have a healthy bit of both happening.
Right,
So
right.
those make sense to combine as to one category as opposed to having a fantasy feature as one and science fiction feature as a second.
Right, right. After that, we have contemporary feature film. We have to go next is 1 hour period television series. We got 1 hour fantasy and science fiction television series, followed by 1 hour contemporary television series.
You can pick up the pattern.
Yeah, I can see what you did there. Yeah. Then we have half hour single camera television series. We have half hour multicam television series.
And for most people will understand that the work there is very different.
Oh,
As
And
far
for
as the
anybody-
pace of the work and everything else. That's why we didn't want to just say half-hour TV, because
Yeah.
those are two very different styles of working in television.
And
Yeah.
for anybody that might not be familiar with what the term multicam means, so a half-hour single camera is shot in the same style that a film is shot, where they put multiple cameras and they shoot multiple angles. but you shoot it like a film, and you prioritize an angle, and then you have an A cam and a B cam, and then it gets all edited together into one half-hour project. Where a multicam is typically filmed in front of a live studio audience, and there are sets that sit in front of the live studio audience, and you have cams filming every angle at once and equally prioritizing that work. So they seem very similar, but they're actually a completely different style of work. It's sort of like putting on a live taping. It's
more theater.
Something.
It's more like
it's
theater.
more theater.
Think multicam is Big Bang Theory, and single cam is The Office.
Right. After that, we have television miniseries. Then we have variety reality game show series.
There's a big salad right there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We really struggled over some of these because they don't, like, variety doesn't probably sit in its own category. We also didn't want to have 25, 30 categories. And these seem to group really well because, I haven't done a ton of work on reality or game show, but I have done some variety, and it's very shooting from the hip. It's all moving very quickly, and usually your budgets aren't massive. Sometimes having more money just makes things easier. So these felt like they belong together. But again, we're open to input for year 2.
Okay. And then the last category we have down here is short format. So commercials, web series, and music videos. And this is one that was combined, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we originally had...
I think commercials stood on its own.
Yeah, commercials is going to be its own thing.
We had web series, music video combined as the previous category.
And they were combined, and we actually, before we even started the voting, in the rule structure on the website, the committee reserved the right to combine or expand these things as needed because we were trying to think about all of the possible scenarios as we made the rules for our board game.
Yeah.
And I hope to be pulling these apart again someday. It wasn't how we originally conceived it. We had 12 awards plus Lifetime Achievement and Humanitarian. Now it's 11 because we just didn't get the influx of submissions. And so we had to group them.
Right.
You don't want to have 3 submissions in a category and make those your 5 nominees. It feels too small. And we want to make sure, like I was saying earlier, that we want to make sure that the competition is tight and that these are all really hard choices that people have to make when they vote.
Yeah, I think it will be too. And that's all of them. But I do think we need to take a moment to talk about the Lifetime Achievement Award a little bit also.
We will be giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to Emily Ferry, who is...
a legend
property master. Her work includes Memoirs of a Geisha and Gattaca and Alien Resurrections and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's a staggering list of credits. I'd be remiss to also not point out that she is the first woman property master and broke a lot of ground in doing that, spends a large amount of her time advocating for property masters as a representative at IATSE Local 44, which is the union in Los Angeles for decades now. And it was... So how we came up with a Lifetime Achievement Award is there was a submission process to nominate people, and then the committee presented that list to the board for a vote on who the board felt was the best for the Lifetime Achievement Award.
And this is anybody across the PMG submitted names to put up for this, correct?
Yeah, and we had names from all over the world, not just Los Angeles or this country, that were considered. And it was staggering to look through, the careers of some of these property masters are... one that, I only dream of maybe having someday. And it's a staggering amount of work and creativity. And we're really honored to be able to celebrate Emily as the first.
Yeah. And the trophy itself is special. It's a MacGuffin. It has the same sort of shape and form factor. But the MacGuffin that is given out per category is like a nickel-plated piece with a shiny brass ball. And the Lifetime Achievement Award will be all brass. It will be an all gold tone trophy, so it'll stand out.
Yeah. And how did she get selected out of those groups of names?
It was a secret ballot board vote. We wanted the best that we could to pull the politics out of the situation, and so we wanted to do secret ballot. And so then it was a decision of 15, property masters who reviewed the career of each of those nominees.
In the future, we could look at bringing this to the voting membership, but this one seemed like a better choice for the board.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes complete sense. Okay, then let's talk about the trophy and the trophy design. Well, how did the trophy end up being what it is?
Well, I started that process really early. There's an illustrator that I worked with on Rebel Moon, Andre Parada, who's a lovely guy and really talented, and we just started talking about what this thing should be, and we wanted something that was not literal, like a director's chair, or or
you would have had a lot of people mad if it was a director's chair.
Nobody would come.
No, nobody would come.
Even if it's one of the little camping chairs.
Yeah. If you had a director's chair cart, nope.
So we wanted to get into something that was sort of suggestive, and everybody who's seen this trophy, a lot of people have different ideas as to what it looks like. We had a ton of illustrations. In fact, at the first Liftgate event, I had them all up inside of my truck, like 20 printouts of these things, so that people could just look and weigh in. And after that happened, the committee got together and we picked about the 6 that we thought were the leading contenders. And then my good friend and really talented modeler, John Bush, went into ZBrush and modeled them all. And then I printed each one at a small scale. I don't know what happened to all those little... They were so cute. They were like...
It's in my house
5
right
inches.
Yeah.
And so we were able to look at them in 3D. I mean, this is how you make a prop, right?
Yeah.
And we picked the one that we like the best, which has this kind of flame gesture. I actually sketched this for the first time on an airplane. It was a horrible drawing, but I was able to communicate.
But
what
the
it looks
idea
like.
was like most prop masters.
Yeah, the idea was just to sketch. I don't even know where that piece of paper is anymore. But the idea is that this is sort of like a flame that's lifting this ball. And so as I conceive it, the flame part of this trophy is the magic of the prop master, this whatever miasma that we do to elevate the props, and the actual prop is represented by that golden ball that's sort of rising to the top of the trophy. Other people see, 3 fingers, a hand holding it. Some people see a great place to put your keys when you come in the door.
Yeah.
But I think everybody that's seen these, especially with the full-scale 3D prints that we have, they like to pick them up. And every time I make a prop and I put it out on stage and somebody walks by and they have to put their hands behind their back and they lean in,
right,
or they reach out and they say, "Can I?" If you want to touch it, you've got something good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people want to touch this.
Well,
Yeah.
and there was a ton of consideration of, if we're going to do a prop award, we got to do the prop right. And there was so much consideration into how much should this weigh? Well, how much does an Oscar weigh? And what materials is this made out of? We could print them and plate them, but wouldn't it be great to do it real?
Yeah.
And, a lot of times, we do beautiful work to make beautiful props, but you look at it through a camera lens, through certain lighting, with distance, and this has to look good when you hold it, and it's got to look good forever.
I'm hoping that when people get these handed to them on stage and they walk down, they don't want to put them down.
Yeah.
You know, I want this. This is an object that I hope people covet.
Yeah.
And that they aspire to.
Right. And what's the deal with the name plating? Did they get that the same night of?
Ooh, this is great. So we were going over this because we can't afford an engraver like they do at the Oscars, right? So here's the plan, and it's a genius one. Studio Art and Technology is manufacturing. There's going to be basically the people who know who the winners are going to be very limited, but we have to put a sticker on the inside of the envelope.
Yeah.
And we wanted to put the name on the trophy so that when you went home, your name was on the trophy. But backstage, We don't want anybody to be able to know.
Yeah.
So Lewis's idea, which I think is really great, is there's going to be a vinyl that's going to be put over the actual nameplate that'll have the name of the category.
Oh.
And once you get back to your table, you peeled off the vinyl and your name is right there and it's ready to go.
Wow.
So there will be 2 people at Studio Art and Technology that will know the winners ahead of time because we have to do the manufacturing.
And we got to get them to sign an NDA.
And yes, no, they are sworn to secrecy under several bomb threats. And then there will be one person from the PMG who will have this information as well, so that there's a backup. There's no room for a communication error, and that there's a check in place.
Right.
But knowing that there are only going to be 3 people who know this, if information gets out, we will know whose fingernails to pull out first.
Yeah. we didn't bring any of these trophies today for a nice picture or anything like that.
I don't. I keep printing them and I bring them to events and then they disappear.
Yeah, that sounds right. People want to already have one and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I hope one day to have one too. There's a trophy case right behind us of just props that is just begging for one to be placed in.
I know, your shelves are high enough too. It's a tall trophy. We're at like 13 and 5/8 inches tall.
Yeah.
Give or take. And the base is 6 inches in diameter.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully there's after party. There's a lot of dancing with trophies in the air. And
Yeah, so if anybody's buying any bookshelves,
Yeah.
Just plan on one big one.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, then the event ends with a nice after party with DJs who are prop masters, PMG prop masters, that will have a good time into the night. Do we have to be out of the Belasco Theater at a hard out?
There is a hard out.
There is a hard out.
There's a hard out at 11.
At 11.
We'll be
Okay, that's
downtown
pretty
for
good.
everybody's after party on the after party.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, there'll be a little over a 2-hour after party downstairs. The Belasco has a nice venue underneath the Belasco that we'll be doing an after party, which will be a little bit more of a celebratory, relaxed, dance with our DJs experience.
The whole award show, as it's timed out, is landing at like under 3 hours. We're going to be at like 2 hours and 40 minutes, depending on how many people want to thank their moms and everybody else for a long time.
I know it was important
But
to us to
we wanna
not
keep it tight.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
make it boring and
That was the experience at the ADG, is we were just...
not trashing
There.
the ADG awards, by the
No.
way.
The
There was a
awards are too long.
It went for like
It was like
5 hours. Felt like 10.
right.
Yeah.
And they closed. What is it? It's like it started going longer, but the bar closed during it too. So it was like, I can't even get a drink. Well,
Yeah, putting the most impatient people in charge of this was either the best or worst
I don't
decision
know.
ever.
We'll find out.
We won a 20-minute award show.
yeah.
But we're excited. Like hearing from all the people that are flying in and are buying their tickets is exciting. Hearing the people that are going to be coming in to present, production designers and directors and actors, like it feels so awesome to feel the community coming out for us, to feel our peers coming out for us.
We're also happy to announce that we will not have a host other than a gentleman named Drew Massey, who's a really talented puppeteer and a show creator and a good friend. He'll be on a microphone off stage just keeping things moving by introducing. But one of the things we wanted to avoid is the trap of like, okay, here's our host, they're going to do a bit, and now they're going to announce the presenters who are going to come out, and they've got their little bit, and then they give out the award, and then we go back to the host bit, and then the presenter bit, and it just gets clumsy.
Right.
So we just, in an epiphany, decided, what if there's no real host, and there's just this voice of God introducing the next presenter? It'll move things along really nicely.
Yeah.
We're also collecting, and hopefully we'll have a nice batch of these for the award show. We're collecting from the presenters, from the people who said, you know what, this is such a great idea. I'd love to be there, but I can't on that day. We're asking them for little 10-second, hey, sorry I can't be there, but props are cool, and I'm a famous person, so go get it. Congratulations. And I think we'll be putting a bunch of those into the show as well, hopefully, so that we'll have a lot of voices. And for the prop masters in the room, the whole point of this is for the people who are there to feel supported by the entirety of the film community, even the folks that can't show up, can at least give us their good wishes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. So for everybody, what time does the show start on the 14th? Or what time is the cocktail
Hours
party?
at 5.
Yep.
The official event will start at 6. We think the award show will be over around 8:30, and then the after party will end at 11.
So that's a long time of being able to hang out with prop masters
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
do
6
thing.
hours from
6
start
hours.
to finish if
Right.
you choose to
And
Stay.
you got to get out at 11, or the Belasco starts charging us more. It's like a wedding venue, so you know.
So we will kick you
We'll
out.
be flicking the lights.
Yeah.
You will be getting out.
Or you'll just have to give us your credit card, and we
Yeah.
can buy another hour.
Buy another hour. Totally.
We'll pick a place to go to after for those especially motivated to keep going.
And for the folks that can't be there, whether they're overseas, whether they have a conflict, we are planning on, I'm going to say that right now as opposed to will be, but I think we will be recording this all, multiple camera angles. We'll cut this together and we'll get this online so that it won't be live streamed, because I think that this year was too aspirational. Maybe next year we'll be able to land
Right.
a live stream so that you can watch from wherever you are in real time. That's a goal, but for this year, we're gonna record and we'll post it to wherever people watch those things. I don't know, TikTok, if that's still around.
Yeah.
And we honestly hope that as many people as are available, property masters, assistants, food stylists, people that work at prop houses, prop makers, our vendors and business owners, armors,
Yeah,
like
everybody.
we would love to see everybody there. I know it's the Property Masters Guild award show, but it is a celebration of the contributions of everybody that delivers this work to camera.
No, it's going to be a really feel-good night for everybody in the prop department, I think. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to figure out what to wear.
Yeah, that's what I think. I was approaching. They're like, "Do I need to get a tux?" I was like, "Just a suit, I think is fine."
Formal means so many different things in Los Angeles, let alone our film community. People might look at you strange and you show up with the cargo shorts.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Are you saying that because I'm wearing them right now?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But if formal to you is a tux, or it's a suit, or it's a cocktail dress,
Or just
it's
your nicest set of flip-flops?
your nicest... I have really nice flip-flops, so that's what you should do.
Yeah, what you're saying is there's no one that's not going to be admitted.
Right.
I mean, maybe don't come like with holes in your T-shirt and stuff.
Unless
like
they're
that.
artistic holes.
Yes. Yeah. You know what's great though, and as we're talking about this right now, I am reminded of the thousands of hours of work that have gone into this, and we really have crested the hill. Like when this started, it was like a 1.5 page pitch to the board, which, I mean, some of them were crying at the end of it because they saw it.
Yeah.
Like it was in that 1.5 page pitch. And now we have nominees. Congratulations, Lauren, by the way.
Oh, and
Yeah,
to you
yeah,
too, Brad.
yeah. These
And
2 award nominees.
There are people who are just like reaching out in the prop community to extend those congratulations and to just say, hey, you did a great job. I can't believe it's fantastic. You're nominated. We have that done. We have the location. The trophy is currently being manufactured at SAT. Like, we've crested the hill.
so
This
close.
is real.
And
Yeah, it's happening.
close.
And
No.
it feels amazing.
Not
Yeah.
when this will air, but when we're recording this, it's 6 weeks out. You
Yeah.
know, it's crazy
Yeah.
how much, and it's been over a year and a half now.
There's
in
still plenty to
preparation for
do.
this.
Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
still
Right.
a lot.
Yeah, if you would like to load gift bags, we will be holding.
Yeah,
Please email me.
wine will be provided.
yeah.
But honestly, also, everybody hearing this should know that this committee is not a closed committee. We've had people start on it that are no longer really pushing a lot of energy into it because of their obligations. We need bodies, and
Yeah.
we want ideas.
We had a couple people on the committee that weren't even PMG members when they started on. They are now. They have become, because I think this has gotten them excited. But that's just to say there's a lot of committees in the PMG that if you're not a member, you can still help us out. We're never going to turn away your help.
Never.
If you want to be motivated to help us stuff, like membership is, I mean, we definitely want you as a member because it's only going to uplift our craft and it's important to our industry. But if you just want to help out in anything and that helps bring awareness to prop masters, helps elevate our craft in any way, shape, or form, we're not going to turn down your help. Please get involved.
Every person doing the doing is volunteering.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we are only better by the more people that get involved. And this guild is going to be the guild that is reflective of the people doing the doing.
Right.
So, like, if you have a thing, like, it's only going to happen because a volunteer decided this was important.
Right.
And the guild has been really supportive in so many different ways of providing the resources whenever possible to do what someone dreams of is important. But it's only going to be because members of the community self-activate into deciding this needs to happen.
So if you as a PMG member or as an associate or even somebody that's thinking about joining says, you know what the PMG should do?
You are the do.
If you've
you
ever
are the
thought that or said that out loud, that is our way on the inside. You know, there's a bunch of board members here, right? That's our way of saying, like, oh, yes, that's what you should do.
Right. And we will provide the volunteers, we will provide the support, we will provide the money. There's never been a proposal in the PMG that's been given where anybody has ever said that's a stupid idea. A couple of us have thought it, but that is beside the point. Like
With our inside voices.
With our yes, yes, exactly. But like everything is valid, and then I mean we don't know unless you bring it up. Like, and that's a big thing. So I mean half this stuff. There's so many ideas that's constantly brought us that I'm always like, I've never thought of this.
Yeah.
You know, education has kind of even come miles in the past few months to forefront. Where I mean just from taking a couple people that are motivated or being in the right place at the right time when some idea comes to fruition, and that's how it just gets done with us. So if you have an idea,
this was an idea that took a year and a half so far to get from start to finish, but sometimes the path from idea to delivery is short and faster than anybody would have imagined.
Oh, totally.
Like, I have to give a shout out to Paula, who has come on and got excited about education, has really gotten involved there. And it's really exciting to see that ramp up to the point where I have to be like, can you slow down a little bit?
Yeah.
But like we have a bunch of classes scheduled that I'm really excited about.
We're talking about with Hollywood CPR and West LA College about starting to do like full blown 3 hour to 4 hour tours through ISS and showing them a prop trailer. Like it's a lot of stuff that's starting to happen, but it's exciting stuff. And
bringing this back around to the award show is I want everybody that's listening now to realize that, like, okay, September 14th, this is going to happen, and at 11 o'clock we'll be done with this event, and we're all going to breathe a real sigh of relief and pat each other on the back a little bit.
But we'll stress about Comic-Con
the 15th,
right after that.
Right, well, and September 15th is just, that's for napping. But on the 16th, you know, we're going to get into our postmortem, and we're going to start, like Theresa said, planning next year. And we want people who see the show from a seat that's not the awards committee to give us their vantage point. What did they see that we could do better? Great if we nailed everything, fantastic. But you know, this is going to be a living show, and the rules will probably change, and the categories will probably change, and the trophy will stay the same because it's really awesome. But you know, as a community that's listening to this right now, we do want the input. Because, like we said, we've never done this before. We're probably going to screw something up. Yeah. Best intentions, of course, but we want the feedback. We want the input so that it can only get bigger, better, and stronger. Yeah. And to add to that, I want to encourage, this is not an LA thing, too. Right. Like, so just if you're saying, oh, well, I'm in London right now, like how the hell, we do Zoom. A lot of this stuff is through Zoom. Like most of our meetings are at least hybrid. Like we always have a Zoom aspect. We have people in our committee that are in Boston. We have people in our committee that are, our membership committee is in 6 different states. And we always like do it. So if you're thinking, oh, because I'm in Atlanta or I'm in London or I'm in Australia, I can't contribute in any way, that's not true. And you're actually almost, I think you're more instrumental to us because you're showing us from a perspective that we don't necessarily understand. And that's reflected in our nominees too. I don't think anybody can look at this list and say, oh, this is an LA list. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so please, if you want to get involved in your out of state, let us know. We are happy to talk to you and include you. Yeah. Does anybody have anything more about awards they want to bring up? Do we miss anything?
Gosh.
I don't know. I'm just really amazed,
right?
That it's working. That it's going to happen.
From a
so
year and a
excited.
half, I remember when you first brought the proposal to the board to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So now even getting to this point, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
and that
pretty
the
cool to see.
community is engaged. Like it was to Theresa's point, even getting when we opened up submissions, it was just like, okay,
We just said a
does
silent prayer.
Does this community does this guild do prop masters actually want this enough to put a little effort into some submissions? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes, they want this.
And it's been interesting to see already, before we're even done this yet, the effect it's having on the industry around our craft.
Oh,
like
yeah.
prop masters are excited, and that's really awesome. But like, there's starting to be buzz at the Television Academy,
Right.
as a result of this. There's starting to be buzz in media outlets as a result of this, and at the other guilds, and it's just really exciting to see, you know what I mean, the community get excited for us and start to give us better credit for the art that we bring,
Oh, yeah.
because we've started to celebrate ourselves.
Well, and even on the commercial that I got nominated for was I immediately texted the art director, the production designer, and they blasted it on their pages. But then the director actually texted me, and she was like, "Can I share this too?" I was like,
yeah.
"Go for it!" You know,
Yeah.
like she was super stoked. So it's bringing together those members of different guilds and different unions to also be happy for us and to show their support for the work they know we do, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
that
good.
nomination announcement day, scrolling through social media was such a feel-good
was
day.
really fun,
It was like,
wasn't it?
man,
It was a great
it's
day.
all prop masters, all like excitement, and not just from prop masters, but from all my production designer friends were shouting out, like all the set decorator friends were shouting out prop masters. Everybody was shouting out prop masters.
My
So-
mom was really excited.
yeah, moms were very excited.
My mom called. She was like, "That's so exciting!"
And look, our trophy is the coolest one. I mean, honestly, Oscar, fine. I understand it's pretty nostalgic, but really, it's a stick. Emmys are really fragile, from what I hear. You can't even you set them down wrong, and they're massive, and they don't. I think actually Emmys would be really good for drying. If you wash and rinse your sandwich bags, you can put those
if we
on there.
ranked
That'd be
all
really
the
good.
trophies as
You know.
kitchen utility items.
Yeah.
Right, but the MacGuffin is a work of art, and and it came together with a community of designers and 3D modelers and the folks on the committee who were like, "That's the nicest one there."
It was
And
my number one pick.
It was your number one.
It was my number 2, but that's okay.
You can be wrong. It's all right.
yeah.
They're all like my children. I couldn't
Yeah.
pick between them. But now, actually, if I ever do a show that needs a trophy, I've got a bunch of backup designs.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were all really great, you know.
Yeah. So, everybody out there, make sure, like I said, get your voting in if you're a PMG member. And if you weren't lucky, I mean, if you weren't able to get your application in to join the PMG for this round, we're going to be doing this every year. It's going to stay the same as far as voting goes. I'm pretty confident that's not anything with the trophy that's going to change. We're going to pretty much keep that same. It's always going to be open to membership. So, go ahead and send in your application to the PMG. You can go do that over at the PMG's website at propertymastersguild.org.
And submit next year.
And submit,
as you're
yes.
working, obviously without
Take
violating
pictures.
NDAs, without anything like that. But record your work, be able to self-advocate. Do a good job of imagining what your presentation is going to be for the next year.
Yeah.
Submit.
Yeah. So submit your works, do all this stuff, pay attention. But I think, it's going to be good. So get over that. Get in your voting, and then make sure you buy your tickets. Again, the event will be at the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles, and that'll be September 14th.
And they can find event and ticket information at either thepropertymastersguild.org or MacGuffinAwards.com.
Yeah, or PMGAwards.com.
Or PMGAwards.com.
Any of those websites. There's lots of outlets.
And the space is limited.
Yeah.
So make sure you get your tickets before they're no longer available.
Yeah, get them now. Yeah, that being said, I also want to remind everybody the first weekend of October, we are going to be at LA Comic-Con. It was such a blast last year. It was such a success. I think we're having 3 panels this year, not just 2. And I want to solidify them a little bit before I announce exactly who's going to be on them, but they're going to be absolutely incredible, and you're not going to want to miss them, so please come. A lot of the stuff we're displaying is even better than last year. I don't know, maybe Brad will bring R2 again or something
Always.
like that. Yeah, that you can come take a picture with. But there's going to be a lot of really, really cool props. I think we're going to get in some classic props that everybody's going to want to see. It's going to be extremely cool. So meet us down there. We're going to have a booth on the floor for Friday through Sunday. And then we're gonna have, a bunch of prop masters there. We're gonna have our panels. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It was a blast last year. So come and say hey. Get a raffle ticket to get your show swag from classic shows. Get some merch from us. It's gonna be great. Thank you guys for coming in and joining today and talking about the awards.
Yeah, it's great. Great to be here and talk about it.
Yeah. Also, a special shout out to Blue Prang. Is that how you say your last name? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Blue for running the board and being our tech director today. I appreciate it, Blue. No problem. So, without further ado, I guess. Thanks to everybody out there who just is tuning in to another episode of Prop Talk. I really appreciate everybody for listening. I feel like every week I get either a message or something from somebody new somewhere around the world. So it's getting out there. I know it's getting out to people in Europe and Australia and stuff like that. They continually to reach out and say they like the show. I mean, if you don't like the show, let me know too. I mean, maybe I can improve it in some ways, but always up for constructive criticism. But thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And I mean, as long as you guys keep listening, we'll keep doing it. It's the official podcast of the Property Masters Guild, brought to you by real working and retired prop masters as well as associates. If this is your first time listening, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment wherever you're hearing this or watching this. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch the show front to back. If you want to know more information on the Property Masters Guild or have any questions for us here at Prop Talk, go to propertymastersguild.org. We're also on all the socials on Instagram @_the PMG. And everywhere else, just search Property Masters Guild. You will find us. Until next time. Bring me up.